There we go. Welcome in to Fight to Flight with Kelly and Mike, brought to you by The Best Nest, because we're still waiting on a sponsor.
We are The Best Nest.
We are The Best Nest. My name is Mike Hess. I am a respiratory therapist. I do a lot with chronic lung conditions, chronic breathing problems, and help people breathe a little bit better.
My name is Kelly Becker. I'll say I'm a human. I'm a woman, and I've struggled with obesity my whole life. I happen to be a family nurse practitioner with a background in cardiopulmonary critical care and nursing. Now I'm a full-time obesity specialist, and I'm going to be real with you. I'm a flaming tire fire right now. So here to talk about the realities. You can have all the resources and knowledge and know how to coach others, but staying positive in the real world is what we're here to talk about.
All right, so will you do me a favor, please, and twist that clockwise? Nope, down. Yes, that collar there. Just twist that a little bit clockwise. Welcome into John, requesting a little bit more volume. Always hard to, it's funny. No, it's on. I played with the gain a little bit. Also, before I get into this whole conversation, I also want to say good hello to my good friend Judy Martin. I hope you're feeling a little bit better, Judy. A lot of heat and humidity again today, so hopefully you're trying to stay cool. You're always cool. I mean, who are we kidding? I'm not in the clinic, so I can say my favorite patient. How about that? And then John
It happens.
What's that?
It happens.
Yes.
So red means that it's not muted and green would mean it is?
No, it actually blinks when it's muted. So it's always red, probably cost saving measure. But when it's, I know it's a little bit backwards.
The human factors design is poor.
There you have it. In any event, there's a funny quirk of technology where I use the same setup for podcasting. I use it for video conferences, and I use it for this. And of course, we're using it for this. So the volume is always a little bit different. It's the same microphone, same equipment, same computer, all that stuff, but the sensitivity in the software seems to be a little bit different, I guess. And so streaming on Facebook is a little bit different than recording the podcast. And so if you're listening to this on the podcast version and it's a little bit loud, we can blame John.
I want to know if people are hearing us okay now.
That's the most important thing. We need a team. That's what we need. We need to win the lottery so that we can get a team. So, as long as people are hearing us okay, that's really the key thing. As Kelly mentioned, and I kind of put in the description, if you're able to see that, it's been a challenging week. I don't know if you want to go first. You want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
Mind you, Mike and I have just reconnected after a full day at our day jobs, and we have not talked about what we're saying tonight. First of all, credit to my peer, Lynn Lounsbury, who made the blanket for us at Christmas birthday time.
Oh. Turns out I turned it the wrong way.
Neat.
So, from the top, Kelly, tell us about your tire fire.
I like your sweaty balls. That's how I feel. I mean, what's the show from SNL?
Delicious Dish.
Yeah.
The Delicious
I feel
Dish.
like we're on Delicious Dish. Fantastic. Great.
Good times.
Neat. Swell. Isn't that nice?
Demonstrating you were right, Kelly Becker, human factors design is poor, because when I'm looking at it upside down, then it didn't work right. So it's like that YouTube guy that he's the kitchen design expert, and then he greases up his hand and uses it his offhand, and if you can't do it, then it's bad design. So.
I appreciate him. Human factors. So again, thank you to Lynn Lounsbury, my colleague and friend, who made this beautiful blanket for us, because we do call our home The Best Nest. That's the origin of this page and everything. Not going to lie. So I said in the opening, I'm an obesity specialist. For those that don't know me, I'm a nurse practitioner and I'm someone who's struggled my whole life with obesity. Stepped on the scale this morning, started these shows with the Best Nest 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I had all these great hopes. In the month of May on Facebook, I was posting 21 days of change. When the pandemic started in March, I thought, this is awful, but I'll go home and I'll have time to regroup and recenter and be my best self and organize my house and start a healthy routine. And a couple weeks ago, I walked over 25 miles in a week, and then I had goals building on that, and I'd lost some weight. I'm up 30 pounds from my lowest post-op weight. And I'm counseling people who are wildly successful, thank goodness, every day, and recommending their friends and family, thank goodness. Love it, believe in it. And last night, Mike and I were on a short walk, what we could fit in the blazing heat. And I'll be honest with you all, I was like, you know what, man? I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm a flaming tire fire. I know what to do. I have the resources. I have the time. I have the why. I have the support. What is happening to me? And I said, I keep, for all of this time and for a while now, I'm still doing the thing that brings me immediate comfort or gratification, and I'm not taking the time to do the things that require self-discipline, concentrated effort over time, unpleasantries. And I was really beating myself up, and I woke up and stepped on the scale today, and I'm 2 pounds higher than the first day when that was going to be my worst weight. And I am not a success story, and I don't want to be a fraud to you, you're so supportive, or to my patients. And so with a couple of patients today, we set some goals, but they were in the same place. And I messaged a peer last night, like, how are you doing? She's like, I'm struggling with feelings. And I was like, me too. I'm struggling. And I wasn't. I mean, it's not that we've been sick, we've been fortunate. We're working for now. We're healthy. We've had time. We have each other. We still like each other. We're happy. We don't even really want or need. We're kind of afraid to go out in the world. But I think what I'm struggling with, and I really, really need to know how other people are feeling, but I know some patients felt better today as we just put it out there. I'm feeling like we're starting to go back to the real world. And we're opening those wounds again, or we're opening those scabs again to these are the things from before. And there may be some fear about how to do this safely, specifically with the pandemic, but it's more than that. I'm going back to the world where I was chasing my own tail, and I didn't have time, or I didn't make the time for the appropriate self-care. And I had nightmares. I woke up gasping. I'm panicking. I've had all this time. Why didn't I do XYZ by now? I'm going to be in my clinic starting next week for at least some of the time live, and I am dousing myself in guilt. I'm struggling. I think others might be. Why haven't I taken advantage of some of this time to organize my life, my mind, my heart? Why haven't I used this time better when I was gifted the opportunity to be healthy through it? And I think that's how a lot of us feel. And I was standing in front of the coffee maker today because I said to Mike last night, I don't even know what to say anymore to myself. Usually I can Pollyanna something. I can come out of this and say, this is my barrier. This is how I will address it. This is something I can control. This is what I can do. You know, I have changed my template so I have Thursdays off. I can finally clean my house and organize my life, right? And thank you, Sean. And then I was shaking my head after I stepped on the scale today, and I thought, oh my goodness. And I thought, all I have left, all I can muster is I go back to what worked for me when I was 11 years old, 12 years old, after my paternal grandmother passed away. I was very close with her, but at that same time, there's a lot of loss in my life. And I'm an only child. I was living in the country. I couldn't drive. It was like a pandemic. I was on house arrest. My parents were working all day. And at that time, I had resources like my grandmother's Cooking Light magazines, and I felt crummy, and I had nothing but time, right? So I created a schedule, and I started with just getting enough water. I could almost cry because I didn't even think about that. With the first patient today, I said, what's the first thing we can do today? What's one thing we can control today? And the first thing I did was get enough water. And then I had the old vinyl complete workout by Jane Fonda. I put on the record player, no kidding you right now. And I started doing that, and I started walking. And between 7th grade and freshman year, I really transformed my own health. But how did I do that? And I was thinking about that as I look at the coffee maker today. I'm like, I'm feeling my depression has peaked. There are a lot of things I'm struggling with right now. And what I remember more than anything is I learned to live in the moment and take it one day at a time. Now, this sounds oversimplified and cheesy, but I have not been doing that during this pandemic. I've been thinking about all the things that burned me out or led to moral injury or made me feel bad, like being slow at getting my documentation done, or, leaving things to the next day, or ever troubling my practice, my patients, my peers. I hate that. It's like when things were late for school, and it's been this recurring theme, okay? And so I'm like, all right, live in today and do one thing today, Kelly, that makes you proud by the time you go to bed. And Mike has been demonstrating some of that behavior for me. He's been doing well with it. But I have to let go of how bad I feel about the days prior. And I have to not worry about what's coming tomorrow, because there's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot that's scary. So I'm trying to only focus on how do I define success? What do I need to do to make me proud? And let go of external influences. And so the only thing I can muster, the last thing around, is I'm just going to take this one day at a time, and I'm going to do one thing today that makes me proud by the time I go to bed. And that's just where I have to be, because otherwise I'm overwhelmed and I'm paralyzed. And it's that panic that I didn't get as much done as I wanted to by now, or that I will fail to perform in the future. But I have to stop talking about tomorrow or Monday or the next month, and live today and be proud of today. So, did we lose recording, do you think?
We may have, huh? There's Sean again. Got us back. All right. So, not sure what happened there exactly, but this is as good a time as any then to plug our podcast, which if you aren't able to catch any of the episodes of Fight to Flight with Kelly and Mike, we do have a podcast website set up. You can get Fight to Flight through, anywhere you get your podcast, your Spotify, your Apple Podcast, your Google Podcast, all those places. Or you can head to patreon.com/bestnest, and there are links to all of our media things there. Best Fight to Flight stuff, COPD Navigator stuff, Knit Treks, which we're looking to do with Emma. Tommy agreed to do a Battlestar podcast with me, so we're looking to do all those media things. I'm not 100% sure where we left off with Kelly's tire fire of a week. So, again, going back to make sure you check out the podcast to fill in the blanks there. But so you were talking a little bit about going back to basics, basically. Well, and going back to what worked for you as a youth to kind of do a reset of coping mechanisms and things like that.
One day at a time was the conclusion, and the long diatribe was, I do believe I'm not alone, and I want to say it again in case this audience didn't hear it. I think a lot of us, especially perfectionists, and empaths and carers of the world are feeling stressed now that we didn't expect. And I think it's as we're going back to life, as before, it will never be the same. We may be revisiting old wounds, or regretting things we didn't get done when we thought we would. It's it's like the Sunday night of the pandemic. But also, I don't want it to be Monday. I don't want to just go out there and pretend like nothing happened. I mean, I feel like my anxiety and depression heightened, not just because I have not accomplished all the goals I set out to accomplish, despite resources and support and accountability in a very public place. So when I was talking with patients today, I said, tune in, you'll see my tire fire. I mean, I just kept saying it because that's how it feels. I hope and I do believe that my patients and family and friends at least appreciate togetherness in that, or the accepting the mess. And that sometimes it just sucks. I think if this is our 5th episode, you and I have both been very kind of jolly, as heavy people are, and finding the silver lining. And I think in this last week for both of us, as we talked, it's just kind of like, no, some of this just sucks. Like Sean said, it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
People are hurting. People are sick. And also there's racism and social stigma and disparities that are still unfair and uncertainties, and it just sucks. And we don't always have to put a silver lining on it like I did in my hair. I put more silver in on purpose. Sometimes it's okay to frickin' feel your feelings, and then what do you do with that? And so the takeaway is I'm not going to wrap it up with a bow and say it's all great, because it's not, and it's okay to not be. And I feel like I need to tell people it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And I'm not really great right now. And I have advantages and I have love and support, but I'm still not okay, and that's okay.
Well,
so one day at a time.
And that kind of leads me into where I've been. I share in a lot of the guilt of, I wish, I had these grand plans of cleaning and organizing, like you, and wanted to have other spaces and things like that. And while that didn't get done, I was fortunate enough to be able to be productive. I was, doing these Facebook shows and all that sort of thing. And you're right, we are to a degree starting to reopen again. But then that's where kind of I have I don't necessarily, dichotomy is not the right word, but I have like 2 pathways that are kind of stressing me out right now. And the first is, we've talked a lot about our old way of life, getting back to normal and things like that. And that really wasn't working for a lot of people. Even
wasn't sustainable.
No, even before the pandemic hit, we were having these conversations about, well, depression is on the rise and suicides are on the rise, and all of these, addiction and dependence, all of these things have been ramping up over the past few years because, or probably even longer, especially in some communities that have that built-in stress. We just haven't really done a sustainable thing for a long time. And one of the things that was actually quite fortunate for us was in that pandemic, I found a thing that I really liked to do. Yeah. I really like this role. I really like to be the content creator, because I still feel like I'm putting my clinical knowledge and experience to use. I feel that I'm helping people, and I feel like I can have a good platform for advocacy, but I don't have to deal with the fracked up stuff, the prior auths and things like that. And those are the things you mentioned, the idea of moral injury, where, a lot of times people talk about getting burned out and things like that, but really getting burned out is having to do things that really aren't in anybody's best interest, but that's how you play the game. And it's those little it's like
The death
death
of
of
a
a
million paper cuts.
yeah, exactly. And it just grinds on you after a while. And I was able to be a kind of a respiratory therapist without having to deal with that stuff. And I'm looking at again, am I going to be able to do that? Because then again, the other side of it comes in, and this is where I'm really concerned because I am not a public health official, but I have a master's in public health. I have an affinity for public health. I look at things in the public health model, and I am really concerned right now. Particularly two things that I heard today. I heard some stories about people going to a clinic. And a lot of our clinics in Michigan, I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of them are have a similar model where you will go and you are greeted, and the person greeting you says, do you have this symptom? Do you have these symptoms? Have you had an exposure? Have you had the X, Y, and Z? And if you related to this novel coronavirus, and if you do have those symptoms, then you immediately, there are precautions taken. You go into isolation rooms and you're immediately roomed and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm hearing stories now of repeatedly people failing to mention symptoms until they're in the exam room. And so now the waiting rooms are contaminated and everybody else there is exposed, and usually people are wearing masks, but that's been going down a lot because we have this kind of crisis fatigue thing going on. And so there's all that there's that. And so how are we going to be able to be safe when people are doing that, especially the folks I deal with lung problems? And then again, I'm here. I heard a story on the way home. Awesome, since 50% no symptoms. Yeah, exactly. And then so many people are, and then we still have these discussions about what is pre-symptomatic, what is asymptomatic. Even if you don't have symptoms, there are some preliminary studies that are saying, there are still alterations in your lung tissue and things like that. And in your clotting factors. We don't know where a lot of this stuff is. And then the other big news that I heard, and this one is a little less reliable source, but we all know here in Michigan there was a massive outbreak in Lansing, our state capital, tied to one of their restaurants. Again, not naming any names. They've been all over the news, so you can go find that yourself. And there are reports from coworkers that somebody was working there the weekend where now they started seeing all these breakouts, and then has now come back to Kalamazoo and is working in one of our local restaurants. And again, hasn't been reported, hasn't been...
I don't pay attention.
Well, again, this is kind of breaking news, and so they're saying, well, you got to report that to the health department. But, again, from what I look at it as not even for me, but for the people I deal with, who have... most of you listening at this moment are probably familiar with COPD, which is a chronic breathing problem. Anybody with chronic breathing problems has higher risk, has a stressed immune system, and therefore a higher risk for viral exposures, bacterial exposures. So how do I see the people that I see and that I care for in this kind of environment? Am I going to, do I have a viable job? I mean, is this something that can be done in real life? I mean, I know that sounds kind of apocalyptic, and I know that there are places that are going to be hauling people in. They're going to be hauling people like both of us who have what is clinically described as mild obesity, or I guess I don't know if that's the clinical description, but
We're class 1 right now, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was mild or whatever, but the CDC keeps changing a lot of the risk factors. Folks who are overweight, that's a risk factor regardless of your age. So it's me, it's the people all around me, and then it's just it's the struggle of dealing with, is what I do, is my day job sustainable? I don't know. And even if it is sustainable economically, can I do that ethically? Can I do that morally? Can I look at somebody with COPD and oftentimes are overweight and diabetic, because all these things go together, because if you can't breathe, you're not going to be moving, you're not going to be doing all that stuff. Can I look them in the eye and say, hey, I need you to come back into this waiting room where some fracker was sitting there without a mask, breathing coronavirus over everything? how that, and then on top of that, still dealing in the middle of a pandemic, still dealing with insurance companies saying, no, you can't have inhaler 2, even though you've been on it for 6 years. You got to go back to inhaler 1. I'm with you. I mean, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to. John, he knows a little bit about. I haven't vented like some of the details, but I was joking around with him earlier that I just want to go to an island and do this stuff from my basement. I want to whatever I got to do to make enough money to pay for my internet connection and some groceries, and just do this.
I know. Sean commented too. I don't know if you see that about
do we do throat exams? Yeah, I mean, a key function of my job is telling people to breathe out really fast and usually making them cough because we're doing spirometry. And then that's
so do you
that's
need
been
an
a whole
N95 in there?
That's been a whole other debate because historically sell T-shirts on the beach. I'm ready, man. I can't even sell T-shirts because the vendors are all backed up because the pandemic is shutting down all the factories. I've been able to move one T-shirt through COPD Navigator, which fortunately turned out really good. But did put some coffee mugs up there because they're not even letting you like make new T-shirts and stuff because they're so backed up right now.
Oh.
But I guess I think Jamie was on here before. Maybe she can get us some screen printing stuff.
Well, it just, dawned on me. Last week was the 20-year anniversary of my father dying at 43 of a heart attack. And that hits me harder than I ever realize. And then in retrospect, I can put that together. And then some other things. There are just some things in the universe that aren't fair and people who are not fair in the big picture. But,
and then on top of that, I know I'm interrupting, and I'm sorry, but on top of that, we know that we don't have it that bad. Objectively. Objectively, we don't have it.
When I complain, I get annoyed with myself.
Exactly.
So shut your mouth.
And so then there's this whole other moral injury argument. Yeah, exactly. Feeling guilty.
Kelly, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
That said, I know that my dad at 43 was stressed, and he was an offset printing press mechanic. And I like to think, like in my practice, he had great contacts that became family in like the tri-state area, and he had customers, but then he was the family was just amazing. So he loved that, but there's just a lot of other crap involved with industry and business and rules and blah blah blah. And so relationships we love, it's the other stuff that's stressful. And he was stressed, and he said, I just want to be the fish guy. I just want to be the guy that shows up. And he had a Woody shirt, like Mike wears these Hawaiian shirts. And he had some like his first like Teva sandals and some like comfy khakis. And that was his like chillin' dude outfit. We actually cremated him, and that it was his like his chill outfit. And he said, you know what? No one's mad at the fish dude. The fish dude shows up. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to clean the tank. How are you, everybody? Nobody's mad at the, there's problem solving to do, but it's like, hey, everything's good. Peace out. Gonna go home. Pet the dog. Blah blah blah. And I think that's where you and I might be. We love what we do. We love
absolutely.
Advocacy.
That's why I was saying I want to do this.
If I could do this and never disappoint myself or others, or be bogged down by the stuff, that, I want to love on and care for people and not be limited by so many challenges in our system. So it's taxing.
And that, this wasn't originally intended to just be, and so here we go. I'm feeling guilty already because we're sitting here.
Because we're supposed to be positive.
And
I thought I'm just going to tell people it's okay to be a disaster because.
But, I'll be honest with you, though. I had a really good, I post these on LinkedIn, too. Follow me on LinkedIn.
I can't keep up with this, man. Yeah.
And I actually had a comment from a connection of ours. You know her, Amanda, from the Carolinas.
Absolutely,
Carolina
and hello,
Diagnostic.
Fareen. Yep.
And she said, I really like how you guys keep it real. And I do think there's something to be said because you kind of led with a lot of people are feeling like this. And one of the things, and Sean says they need to know how we fail. Yeah, that was
I could
the
cry.
genesis
I
of
mean,
this.
oh my God.
We fall so that we can learn to pick ourselves up again. I think that was my pop culture quote from episode 1. Even I mean, I think there's something to be said about getting these emotions out and demonstrating that clinicians or advocates or we're people too.
And it's episode 5, and I'm still there.
Well, I know, but
That's what I'm.
that's one of the things I wanted to talk about this week,
Yeah.
because we know, one of the cornerstones is if you're making a lifestyle change, whether it's weight loss, whether it's getting into shape, whatever it is, we know that there aren't any easy answers. You see on TV, we've got the 3-day weight loss solution or the 7-day weight loss solution, or what have you. That doesn't work. We know that there's got to be a foundation. It's got to be a behavior change. It's those cycles and all that stuff. But it's not episode 105.
I love you for that, and I would say that to my patients too.
And that leads into my point, though. When, or is there a time when? So where I'm going with this, we talked
I want
about
you to
this
come
yesterday.
this way a little so we center the heart. It's good. The
That's been
OCD
bothering you?
and several. Yeah, it's been bothering us both. Who are we getting? Okay.
So I am up about 20 pounds from my lowest weight. You had mentioned yours earlier. I'm up about
32.
20. Okay. And so last I checked, because I didn't actually check this morning, but I checked yesterday, and I was up a pound. I was also up from when we started. I was up 1 pound. Now, I've been doing my walking. I've been getting all the steps in.
He really
except
has,
for one
everybody.
day in the last.
He really has.
And not only that, I have a thing on my. I have one of these fancy smartwatches where not only is it steps, it's calories burned through exercise, and it's active minutes. So it's not even like leisurely stroll stuff. You got to actually be active, and I get this little heart.
Hi, Jeannie.
You can see that I'm not quite there yet. I got my minutes because I need to probably reset some of these goals anyway. But I've gotten the heart every day except for the day I get my I'm doing all these things. I started off watching protein. I will say I've kind of fallen off that wagon a little bit, but I'm trying to be. I am doing less snacking. I'm doing these things, and it's still not moving. And so where I'm kind of at, and probably another stressor is kind of, I'm in like a, depending on whether you're a literacy or a literature geek or a sci-fi geek, it's either Charles Dickens or Wrath of Khan. It's the best of times. It's the worst of times. Because I feel better, I feel my sleep is better. I feel I have more energy. I have been able to focus on some projects that I've been working on a little bit better. Been exploring some other opportunities. I feel more productive. I feel better. But I also don't feel that my weight obviously is not changing. And my best guess, based on the clothes that I have that aren't baggy, shapeless scrubs, is that my non-scale stuff, my clothes side, I don't think those are changing. So how long before I don't want to say give up, but how long before you try a different strategy? You're not going to have the instant gratification, but how long do you give it before you say, maybe this isn't working and I need to go in a different direction?
In our marriage and as two people, I think you're putting your finger right on it, and I didn't expect to even have this revelation, but there may be a trivia question or something out there in the universe, and I'll ask you, and whether you know it or not, you have an answer. It is a rare time that you don't have an answer, or you don't have a way to gather that answer for me quickly. I mean, that's
for the record, when it comes to trivia, I usually just have the answer.
Truly. I mean, you really are the smartest person I've ever known who makes interesting decisions at times.
Just waiting on my call from Alex Trebek.
and and I'll say when it comes to lifestyle and coaching, and though I'm flawed, I'm not my most successful patient, but I think I'm decent at this, and um, you can count on me to have an answer,
Hmm.
or my patients might, and this is uncomfortable. I think it's uncomfortable when I ask you a question, you don't know the answer. It's uncomfortable when you ask me a question, especially if it's something I can draw on my gut feeling or intuition or experience in a way. And I think what's uncomfortable for me is I don't necessarily know for sure. When is it time to change course? And it goes back to when I think our recording studio got tired of me talking, and then we just disappeared when I was pouring my heart and soul out. But
It's on the podcast.
I um, kind of lost where I was going with that. But
It's uncomfortable to not know the answer.
it is. Oh, that I can admit at the core what is going on with me. I am still doing the things that I immediately have to do. Like, I have to, because you have to do this. You have to, like, answer this call. You have to see this patient. You have to wake up and participate in the world. You have to put gas in your car. Um, but I'm also doing a lot of things with immediate gratification. I've always struggled with those things that require the what I'm talking about, taking it one day at a time, doing one thing, and this is what I'm coming to. Accepting that it will be slow, accepting that I have to stay committed, accepting that I have to be uncomfortable more than 1 or 2 days in a row, but that it will be worth it, and reminding myself that. I think that's what is coming out of this discussion. You said, how long until you change? I think I have not. It's like I'm an adult and I can do what I want. And I'm an adult and it's the pandemic and it's stressful. So I'm going to keep I'm going to order Grubhub, and I'm going to watch my murder mysteries, and I'm going to kick my feet up, and I'm not going to walk with Mike tonight. I'm going to comfort myself. And I think some of that's important, and we have to forgive ourselves for that.
Mm-hmm.
But back to what I think my goal is, which is one day at a time, do the one thing, be proud of this day. And that's what helped me. Oh, I'm 42, 30 years ago. And that's what could help me again. But I think that that's where we're going, is being uncomfortable and doing the hard work without being miserable and too hard on ourselves, and finding that balance it's a challenge. And I think that that's the crossroads. So if you're not reaching the outcomes you want to reach, an honest self-assessment of, is it that it's not working, or is it that I would rather be doing the things that bring me immediate gratification because I've forgotten that I'm worth this effort.
Wow. Yeah.
I could cry, but I'm worth this.
Sean says,
Yeah.
maybe commit to not weighing yourself for a month, and maybe that's a thing. I have one of our patrons on Patreon, Brian. He's always very upfront. He has lived with lung problems his entire life, and he eventually told his pulmonologist, "I'm not going to do the spirometry test. I'm not going to do the lung function test anymore, because just like Sean is saying, the scales may be causing you to get more down." That's possible. I think
I'm not getting on it very often.
No, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I mean,
not more than once a week lately.
And
yeah,
I think that's probably part of it, is because and this is where I almost got spoiled last time, because I have also struggled with weight my whole life, as regular viewers know. When I did the surgery, that was like smooth. I mean, there were no complications. I lost 150 pounds like basically no bother, no struggle. I mean, it was kind of easy, and I
D-
know that that's part of it.
don't forget that you followed medical for a year, and you were tracking, and
Well,
you were
yeah. So
walking, and you were looking at, you were working hard, and the surgery helped with that set point. So you had
it was
a
subjectively easy, I would say. I mean,
it, and it shouldn't feel awful, but it's hard now, and I think that's why, like, we're going to have a support group tomorrow night with those of us back on track. It's different now.
well, and that's where I'm
It
going with
just
it.
is
Easy.
different
You're
after
right.
weight loss.
I shouldn't have said easy because it's never the easy way out.
And you
we
were
both
working
preach
really
that.
hard.
And I was. I was
Yeah.
doing what I was supposed to do. But then this time I kind of had it in my head. It's like, oh, okay. I've been sitting on my rump for months. We haven't been playing tennis. We haven't been doing
Man,
our
our,
usual
our at least
activities.
hour of tennis a day saved us from a lot.
Oh, I
No
see that
way.
now. So I got it in my head. That's like, okay, all I got to do is get my protein to 60 and get my steps in, and whoosh, it'll be fine. It'll just flush right out again. And I probably shouldn't have thought that, but I did because we're people and we have an infinite capacity to fool ourselves.
A lot of us will
Um,
think, if I go back to that thing that worked really great, why isn't it working as well? And then
yeah,
it's like, I have a lot of that, and I'm dealing with that, but we are also in a pandemic and like social crises, and
we've got yeah,
it's,
and
I
I
mean,
mean, looking back, I mean, I'm 4 years older now, and maybe that's not a lot in the scheme of things, but my body is 4 years older. I have an entirely different, metabolic, biochemical, hormonal structure because, I have a chunk of my stomach is gone, and so the hormones are different.
and it's always
Um,
harder after initial weight loss, always.
the stress is
Yeah.
harder. We've talked a couple of, the variety of stressors. We've had some family stressors, as many families do. I mean, this has just been, and the unknown. I mean, we don't know where things are going to be in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 months. I mean, they're talking. The governor was on, had a news conference today talking about opening school and things like that. And I didn't catch all the details, but I think to myself, how is that even possible? I mean, I know we have this whole thing where kids aren't, supposedly it doesn't affect them, but then they have this whole other coagulopathy, blood clotting thing. Um, and then they're carriers, and then again, what happens if kid gets sick, is asymptomatic, we don't even know he gets infected, comes home, brings it to me, maybe it's in January or something like that, and I think it's just the flu, or it's cold or something, something like that, and then I go to work, and despite all my distancing and all that stuff, I get 3 people sick. How I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many unknowns, without a doubt.
And so my point is, again, not to just be the rain cloud, but there are, intellectually, I know now that there are a lot of stressors. And the stress hormone, cortisol.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's some of that trivia for you. I do pay attention sometimes. Cortisol. The cortisol effect is real. I mean, when you are fighting, you can't fly.
Ha, truth though. I mean, that was a
Roll
common
credits.
thing today. Several people. I'm back to work and I'm happy about it. I think I am. But I'm up weight and I don't understand. And I think there are a lot of, just as you don't always know if someone's carrying or experiencing the virus that is this pandemic. I think the stress is paralleled with that. I think we have hidden stressors that we don't know we're carrying, and that bubbles up. So I feel like I need to say that, and I need other people to know that it isn't just them. A patient today said, I'm going through the motions. I'm doing things. It's almost
Mm.
all I can do to get through my workday. And I don't have much to give to my family. I don't have much left, reserve, but I'm providing, and I'm glad I'm still working because they just had massive layoffs at my place. So I feel like I'm doing work, but I don't feel connected to it. Does that make sense? And I said, yes. She had tears in her eyes, and I said, yes. I'm talking to you. I feel connected to you, but I don't feel connected to my own program right now, my own plan for myself. Um, and I don't know. We're so separated. I think it's important we get together with anyone else experiencing this. You're not alone. And I mean, when we were walking last night, and as I stared at the coffee maker today, as I keep saying, I usually have an answer, but there was a part of me that's like, man, I don't know. I'm running out. I'm running out of things to say and think and hope and paint, this picture. But I think we get together and, as people and talk about this is different, this is real, and we're experiencing it. And it matters that you took the time to be here listening to us. And I that we remember we matter.
And I
And
also
that is real.
I want to highlight a revelation I had earlier today, as a matter of fact, because every now and then I do a blog post for the COPD Foundation, and we're cycling through that again. And I was asked to do one coming up, and this one is more on the clinical side, talking about what do you do to keep patients positive and stuff like that. And I got to thinking, and I'm hopeful that a lot of clinicians are end up listening to this, watching it, whatever, because this was kind of eye opening to me, and I think it's an important lesson to learn. I've seen a lot of folks in various contexts doing in COPD stuff. I talk to people across the country, people living with it, caregivers, patients, or clinicians. And usually there's a lot of different points of view, right? Because, depending on where you are, depending on severity and depending on where you live and treatment plans and things like that. But the pandemic has been kind of unique because there's been a really common thread through that, in that, okay, so tell me again, you are afraid, you're very careful about who you're around because you don't want them to get you sick. Yeah, that's like living with COPD. You consolidate your trips because you don't want to get exposed, and you're cautious about where you go. Yep, that's like living with COPD. You have unpredictable fatigue and stress and things like that. Yep. You have anxiety and depression and all that stuff from being isolated. Yep. Welcome to. This is what our folks with
Chronic disease.
Chronic condition. Yeah. Mental health issues, physical health issues, breathing issues, arthritis, CF, COPD. Help me out here. I mean, all of rheumatoid arthritis, all of these things
Autoimmune.
is new to us, but this is how that group lives. And so as a clinician, I implore you, think about your feelings right now and let those color your interactions. Make sure that if you take one thing away from any part of fight to flight or this pandemic or as a clinician, the one lesson I implore you to learn, feel your feelings and then use them to color your interactions with the people you care for. Because I have long said that I don't know what it's like to have COPD because I don't have that breathing issue. I can't speak to being short of breath all the time, but I kind of have a little bit more understanding of what the lifestyle can be like. Again, I'm not going to tell you I know what it's like, but it's eye-opening. I mean, it's I don't even know what else to say about it. It's revelatory, and I hope that clinicians understand that. And I guess that is something I can hang my hat on as a positive for dealing all the stress that I'm dealing with, all that right now. I at least have learned some valuable lessons.
And then imagine what that feels like, and knowing it isn't that a stay-at-home order is going to be lifted from your disease state.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I eventually get the free pass, which is why I said, I want to be very clear that I'm not saying, oh, I know what you're like now. I'm part of the team. I'm not. Because I know that, eventually I can set that hat down, or I can take that off. But
Going back to the positive, wearing being positive and wearing that hat, so long as we don't lose the opportunity, and we talk about this, you and I do, this pandemic and staying at home and a lot of that has illuminated that a lot of us burn the candle at both ends, and we don't need that hustle bustle, and what really is important, and what do you really need to buy, and what do you really need to have, what really makes you happy. So, and then let us reflect, and dig deep, and identify what it's like for those without resources and support, and do better. Let's feel it, be mad about it, be sad about it, but let's allow ourselves to feel it and do better.
yeah, I mean, it's important to kind of let that wash through you a little bit, because if you deny it, it's just going to come back. Feel your feelings and then do something about it. Again, colored with your experience.
Mm-hmm.
John, by request, before you sign off, perhaps a few words about the passing of Carl Reiner, who did pass away this morning, a giant of, I don't want to say old Hollywood, but a giant of in the acting world, father to Rob Reiner, Meathead, I believe. From the way I know Carl Reiner the most, and maybe this speaks not so well to my Hollywood history or anything like that, but absolutely adored him in the Ocean's 11 movies, or the Ocean's movies.
Oh.
He was Saul in Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. And while that may seem, that's where I know him as. And why that's a connection here is because all of us have a role to play in helping each other. And eventually that was kind of this may be reaching a little bit, but to me that was kind of the message to a lot of those Ocean's movies. It starts off as kind of a heist movie, and that they're all kind of, I mean, if you think about it, they're all criminals, they're all bad people, who scam people and cheat people and do all these things. But they're all there for each other, and eventually they end up being kind of almost like an anti-hero Avengers, because by the time the last movie rolls around, Al Pacino is the bad guy, and he kind of screws all of them over, including Andy Garcia, who was kind of the villain of the first movie. And they all reunite, including Carl Reiner, to team up and do the good thing, do bad things for good reasons, I guess. The ends justifies the means a little bit, because they end up like bankrupting Al Pacino.
That theme this week is interesting, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the biggest takeaway is, whether you are somebody who is dealing with stress and strife, whether you are somebody who's caring for somebody dealing with stress and strife, whether you are a clinician, whether you are a caregiver, whatever it is,
if you're about to rob a casino.
If you're about to rob a casino, maybe that's how we get up to the island in our little t-shirt hut and our broadcast, our
Seriously.
pilot radio broadcast.
If anyone wants to fund us to just, love on you and say nice things, just let us know. Patreon.com/bestness.
But no, we all have roles to play, and you don't always know when that role is how that role is going to affect somebody either. I mean, I stopped doing live shows for a while because it was a lot of work, and I just had a lot of other stuff going on, and I had people I had never met come up to me at respiratory conferences, other therapists and stuff, say, "Hey, can you start doing that again? I learned a lot." I have had people come up to me in every context and say, "Thank you." This is my cliche, my go-to cliche is, my best day at work is when I have that person come back to me after a month and I say, "I didn't know how bad my breathing was until it got better." And you never know when you're going to be that person for somebody else. So play your part. Be inspired by Carl Reiner. I'm sorry I don't have a better story about him, but if we can all live, I know I actually saw if I read the time codes right, he actually tweeted last night as a advocate for people without a voice. So right to the end, he was an advocate for somebody. So be an advocate for somebody. Be part of their team. Be part of their 11 or their 12 or their 8, and take care of them. That looks like as good a place as any to end for this week. Thank you, John. I hope I didn't let you down there. I hope that was a moving tribute. I should know more about him. I have always recognized the name, but that's always been where I know him from. So that's where I wanted to go with it. Thank you. Thanks to everybody else who's still sticking with us through the tech problems. Again, if you missed part of that, this entire right now hour and 5 minutes, minus a little bit of editing at the front and back. Also ate supper with Mel Brooks almost every night together. That I did not know that. I did not know that. I knew he was.
Sound like Johnny Carson. That's
Well,
awesome.
Weird, wild stuff. Everybody's got a bad Carson impression. We help so many. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate you checking in. I've seen a lot of tributes from Carl Reiner today, so it's been a heck of a day in a couple of other circles. So thank you everybody who is a part of our team, a part of the Best Nest team. We really appreciate you listening to us ramble on, and
I'm so honored that people take time.
yeah, it's incredible.
So
We are helping to build a community, helping each other build a community, and that's what we all need right now. We need community. Mel would drive from Santa Monica, and driving anywhere in California, you got to be somebody's BFF.
Hey, that's standing by.
That's they're so in real life, Mel and they're there for each other. That's a great example of people being there for each other. That's why I always ended house call with take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Yeah. Speaking of, actually doing house call this week, Friday for those folks who are interested. Look over at our the progenitor site, progenitor group or page, COPD Navigator. Going to be doing Fitness Friday. Since I am fortunate enough to have Friday off, we're going to get back on the horse and get moving a little bit, because no matter who you are, we can all benefit from a little bit more movement right now. We're going to be taking a walk together. I stole this idea from a brilliant pulmonary rehab, I believe called a physiotherapist over in the UK. Where we're going to be walking through the woods together, or I haven't quite picked out the scenery yet, but just doing some basic walking in place and enjoying some scenery and having a little chat, pretending that it's not 1,000 degrees and humid in the middle of a pandemic. So, and of course, answering questions live, as we like to do. As I said before, if you missed the part where it dropped out, all of this will be available on podcast sources sometime tomorrow. I just need to do a little bit of editing and touch up and that sort of thing. Put our nifty little new royalty-free theme music on there that I found. But look for that in your podcast tomorrow. If you're looking for our other media or want to support our Hut on the Beach Fund, patreon.com/bestnest. Give us some encouragement to do some other shows too. We want to know how best to support you, because at the end of the day, this is all about the folks that we can share our experiences with and hopefully get to feeling better, breathing better, and ultimately take flight to your best life. So,
or we're just here to have you watch us in our own tire fire, and then you can feel better.
Yeah, if we can make you feel better. Don't
breathe in the fumes.
I was going to say, if we can make you feel better about yourself, then hey. All right, folks.
Where I am today.
Until either Friday at COPD Navigator or next week on Fight to Flight with Kelly and Mike, my name is Mike Hess.
Kelly Becker, crying and snotting.
living our best lives right here, living our best tire fire. Please, again, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We will see you next week, Tuesdays at 5:30. It seems to be a pretty all right time. So we'll see you again next week. Find us on Facebook, Facebook.com/The Best Nest LLC altogether, or just search Best Nest and look for the blue bird on a pink background. Follow us there. We're up to 10 subscribers on YouTube now.
Yay!
So we got 90 to go before we can actually name that channel. So please like, share, and subscribe. Help us spread the message. Help us help other people, and that's the name of the game. So be part of the team here. We'll all be part of each other's teams. So. As Linda says, we feel part of your family that you share with us, and you
That's
feel
the
like
hope.
a part of our family.
Oh,
So
without a single doubt.
We love our internet family. So take care, everybody. I, for one, am off to get some more steps. I need about another mile and a half or so. So let's do that and have a healthy dinner.
Okay.
And we'll set fire to the tires again tomorrow. Take care, everybody.